Hello, hello, hello! Today we are going to look at a screen in Omnisphere that I bet many of you have actually played with, and it can actually help to iron out glitches that might occur when you load the patches from Omnisphere. And that page is System page. Now, hear me out. In here, you can do an awful lot of things to make the operation of Omnisphere a lot smoother. Get rid of glitches that appear, and also just assign different things to do different parameters within Omnisphere. So first of all, we'll just have a quick look at the memory bit here. Now, this drop down here, this allows you to limit how much virtual memory Omnisphere is going to use of the overall memory of your computer. So if you've got a limited amount of sort of memory in your computer, you do not want it to just have free reign of it. So if you've got something like 8 gig and you're already using 4 gig with other applications open, etc., you may want to say, no, I want to limit the loading amount into memory of only 3 gig. Now I've got 64 gig in my computer, so I'm okay to leave it at the default, which is process limit. You can turn it off the limit from Omnisphere, but I like to keep it on the process limit, and so far, touch wood, I've not had any glitches or any dropouts or anything like that. Below that, we have these wonderful little bits, but before we do that, one thing I should point out is when you load a patch, let's just load a multi. If I load a multi, it tells me how much I've actually used. So I'm using only 454 meg. Let's go for another one, Alien Probe Landing. That one is usually 216 meg. Now, if I just try and have a look at, I know something in the Trillion library, like Chapman sticks, I know these use quite a lot of memory. You'll start seeing it clocking up very, very quickly. And using 2.5 straight away. So, anyway, moving to streaming, we have this wonderful parameter called preload memory. This allows you to determine how much memory is devoted to the preload. So the higher the settings, the less likely you're going to get glitches when you start streaming from your disk, etc. But the higher you move this slider, it will increase the load time. So if you take it too far to the right, the load time will take forever to actually load up. I always sort of have it midway. So far, touch wood, I have not had any problems with that. We also have this called a stream break. So this controls the balance between your streaming and other operations within the computer. And it should generally be set according to spectrasonics, a value around 0.1. If you go above 0.5, you could get streaming glitches, as it will be deferring to the stream read rather than giving priority to the actual stuff you've loaded into memory. So that's worth sort of like keeping an eye on. Now, my default is 0.1, and again, I've had no problems with that as well. Now, moving on to the next column, we've got the pitch options. Now, this is where you can get a little bit creative, and it allows you to actually use alternative tuning. So you can choose your master tune is always 440 Hz for Western music. Now you can change that, and you can go from 420 all the way through to 460. And you can set it to your global or to the multi. You also can choose the scale that which will be used by the whole instrument, whole of Omnisphere. So you've got all these types of scales. Now these reference points from middle C for the master tune. So your 440 Hz will be middle C. So that could be either C3 or C4 on your controller, depending on the manufacturer. Always handy that they don't always stick to C4 being middle C, because some I've had controls in the past where I'm playing what I think is what is middle C, and it's transmitting on C3, which is bonkers mad, but hey, there we go. So you can actually assign these scales to either your multi, patch, or just universal. I've not really delved into these sort of alternative scale tunings, but who knows, one day I may well do. Now we have some very interesting parameters in the miscellaneous section here, where it says switch to layer after activation. So if I just get rid of the multi, clear multi, yes, I want to clear multi. I'm just going to the patch itself. Now if I load a patch, I'll just use that one. It will, on the system here, it'll say switch to layer after activation. So it'll switch to the active layer. So for example, if layer A is activated but layer C is not, when you select the layer deactivation button, the view will switch to that layer. So if I say layer D, it will switch to D. If I turn D off and switch on C, it will go to layer C. Now if I turned that off, if I just click on any of these, see if it does it without me having to reload Omnisphere. Yeah, there we go. If I click the, yeah. So now if I switch on a layer, it doesn't flick to it now. So if that's what you want to happen, then all you need to do is go into system and turn the layer on. So if I turn it back on and go back, say, right, I want to layer D, it'll flick to layer D for me, which is, for me, that works for my workflow. You then have sync tabbed panes together. Now, what on earth does that mean? So the default setting is on for me. So when it's enabled, it will ensure that when you change from one part to another, your view will always remain the same. So if I'm on A and I'm in, let's say I go into the filter screen and I go to B, it will stay on the filter zoom. Now if I let's turn that off. If I go into filter zoom now I go to layer B, it goes to the front page. So it depends on your sound design workflow. For me, I like it to be on. Then we have this wonderful round robin. Now, round robin means that basically if the patch is actually programmed in such a way that there is different samples for each note. So when you repeat a note, you'll get the same sample. With round robin, it will play a different sample. Now you can actually get these to actually cycle. So say there's 4 different type of samples for your attack, like there is for the Chapman stick, for the Trillion library. Then what will happen is it'll play, for me, it'll play the full cycle of the round robins, but in a random way. It won't just go 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll go 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 2, 3, but it'll complete the whole cycle. Now, you can have it so there's no variation. So you just get the same one each time. You can have it random, so you may end up with exactly the same sample playing. So it might random. It could play the first sample again straight away. And then you got sequential where if there's 4 samples, it'll play 1, 2, 3, 4 each time you press the key. So first press will play 1, second press will play 2, 3, 4. So I like to have it random full cycle. So I do. It's personal preference. It works for me. But that parameter does allow you to actually change the effect. We've got startup page, and that is when you actually load Omnisphere up. Where will it start? As in, what do you see when it opens up? So you can get it to go straight to the orb page, straight to the layer page. Now the layer page is this, or it'll, for me, I have it to go to the main page, and the main page is that. So I can actually see what it is the patch is doing. Just a quick overview. So that's one little parameter that can be helpful in your sound design travels. Now you can have change your startup directory. Now this is a quite handy tool if you've got a favourite patch library that you always use the sounds from. Yes, I do have an awful lot. Yeah, I do like Omnisphere. But in here, you can actually make it default to a particular patch library, which is quite handy. There is one that says startup directory auto recall. Now that's supposed to load up the last patch that you were actually in from your last session. I've never actually done that or used it, so I can't tell you how successful that will work. You also have this wonderful thing called Custom Controls Tab Reset. Right, so the Custom Controls Tab Reset is only applicable to keyscape instruments. So when it's enabled, this in function will ensure that when you change from one keyscape patch to another, the view will always be the same. So I'm saying here, so if I go to, so I'm in the multi, I need to go to patch, keyscape library. So if I go to LA Custom, I get that. Now mine is currently on Custom Controls Tab Reset is on. So if it's on, we have, I've gone on to a different, let's go to Clavinet C. It will do this, and then if I go into a different screen, go back to brand, it will flick back. Now if I change custom reset off, settings, it will still go to the same parameter page. So if I've got a settings page on the piano, it will stay on the settings page on the Rhodes. So, but if I put that to on, and I flick back to, say, the piano, it will take me back to the main page. Again, personal preference, whatever you would like it to do. Now, there is also an accept OmniTR connections. Now, OmniTR is an app that you can download for iOS, or that's your iPad or your iPhone, and it allows you to actually control the orb. Let me just click on Omnisphere library and load one up. It allows you to control the orb, so you literally get all these settings, but on the iPhone or the iPad screen, and you can then use your finger on your iPad to move this around. You also then can also choose how your multis work, because you can play around with the stack and the live mode on the OmniTR. I've used it, but I've not used it extensively. It's great for live sessions, but as I'm mainly a studio musician, I don't tend to use it. I'm going to sort of like curse it here, but I am looking at doing some live sessions where I'll do some programming or play some pieces of music live or compose live, in which case I may well dust this OmniTR off, which will be an interesting use. We then have this wonderful section called Modulation. Now on the left hand side here we have the actual name of the control that's going to be used, and they will transmit on the relevant CC, MIDI CC messages. Currently I've got them all set to where they should be, sort of wheels on wheel, aftertouch, controls aftertouch. So when I say wheel, it means your mod wheel, and aftertouch is when you press down on your keyboard and you think you've hit the bottom of the key, push a little bit harder and you'll activate the aftertouch. But be careful, not all keyboard controllers do have aftertouch. So read your manual before you do that. I'm not going to be responsible for you hammering and breaking your keys on your keyboard because you're thinking it does have aftertouch. Read the manual. But if it doesn't have aftertouch, what you can do is click on this, and it says move MIDI controller. I'm not going to do this because I've got everything set as I need to. But you click on move MIDI controller, and then you move the controller that you want. So if you want to assign it to a slide button, you know, that you've got on like a volume slider or something that's on your keyboard, could do that with it if you want to. And then if you do upgrade and end up with a keyboard with aftertouch, all you need to do is reset to after. Excuse me, reset to after, and it will reset it to the actual message. So when you press the key and press it beyond the bed of the key, it will create the aftertouch, and you can do that with absolutely any, which will be handy for the user CC message because that's a custom one. So if you've got a spare controller, spare knob or button going on, you could select that, move the MIDI controller, press the button. As long as it transmits a MIDI message, you can use it. And then when you go into your mod matrix, quickly go into mod matrix, you could then, let's go to the last page because there'll always be a blank source there. Select user CC and then change your target. There we go. And so that's what you can do in the system page. And I admit didn't spend an awful lot of time in here, but when I found out what you could do in here, I tweaked these settings to what I want it to be like. Working Omnisphere is an absolute dream. I hope this video has been helpful to some of you. Then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I do have a new Omnisphere patch library that is out, available on adrianershaw.com and rockymountainsounds.com, and it's called Cosmic Energy, and it's full of wonderful spatial cosmic ambient electronica. It's basically based around a Dark Energy Mark 1 dupe for Dark Energy Mark 1 synthesizer, and there's also some found sounds in there which gives that ethereal quality. So please check it out, links below in the description, and I'll catch you in the next one.